Another week of the Women's Big Bash League is done and dusted, and I'm back on this episode of Mutual Fund Sahi Hai presents The Outside View, powered by Fantasy Akhada.
मेरे रिटायरमेंट की बहुत फिक्र है तुम लोगों को।
हर किसी को अपने रिटायरमेंट की फिक्र होती है, मुझे शायद नहीं होगी।
मैंने फिक्र नहीं, तैयारी की है म्यूचुअल फंड्स के साथ।
म्यूचुअल फंड्स?
मैंने अपने पैसे बरसों से म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट किए, इसलिए कह रहा हूँ रिटायरमेंट प्लानिंग के लिए म्यूचुअल फंड सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
So after the rain in Hobart last week, this week saw plenty of action and some sensational cricket played across all 10 matches. So let's jump straight into it, into our first segment, the best match of the week. And there are a couple of contenders for this, with the Perth Scorchers playing another super over against Adelaide Strikers. They of course managed to win it thanks to Sophie Devine. And then, of course, there was the game between Brisbane Heat and Hobart Hurricanes. Couple of really, really good knocks from Grace Harris and Mignon Dupree. But I think the game that takes the cake this week is that match between Melbourne Renegades and the Adelaide Strikers. And I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about, the game at Lilac Hill that Harmanpreet Thor managed to, find her inner Thor and get the Renegades over the line. So having chosen to bat first, the Strikers rode on Safa Power. The duo of Dane van Niekerk and Laura Woolfart batted superbly and managed to get the Strikers to a total of 160 for 5 in their 20 overs. Harmanpreet Kaur came in with the ball towards the end, picked up a couple of cheap wickets, but her haul kind of made sure that the Strikers weren't able to kick on after what was a really good start. In the chase, the young gun Jemima Rodrigues got the Renegades off to a flyer, but she was outfoxed by Megan Schutt. And in the company of Josie Dooley, Harmanpreet Kaur came in, got her eye in, and with 58 runs required in the last 5 overs, she went berserk. She kind of toyed with the Strikers' bowling, managed to find the boundary every over in the last 5, and finished unbeaten on 73 with 3 fours and 5 sixes in all. The Renegades managed to get over the line with only 2 balls to spare. All hail Harry Thor. Speaking of God, let's move into our next segment on this show, the Fantasy Akhada Top Performer of the Week. And if you pick the likes of Alyssa Healy, Beth Mooney, Grace Harris, Mignon Dupree, Deepti Sharma, and Harmanpreet Kaur in your Fantasy Akhada lineups, I'm sure you would have won a ton of points. And while there have been plenty of top performances this week, you think of Beth Mooney's 100, Alyssa Healy scored an unbeaten 90, Mignon Dupree's been in the runs. I think the one that kind of, I suppose, edges these performers out is Harmanpreet Kaur. So for me, Harmanpreet Kaur is the Fantasy Akhada top performer of the week. And while she didn't end the week very well, the Mooney 100 made sure that Renegades were beaten in the last match of this week. Harmanpreet Kaur has scored over 100 runs this week itself. She seems to be back at her best. The slog sweep is back. She's pulling it out against pace and spin. She's hitting sixes for fun, and she seems to enjoy hunting down targets again. And with the ball too, she's kind of reveled in a new role, bowling in the power play, sometimes bowling with a new ball, coming back towards the end, and she's developed a bit of a golden arm. So she's really enjoying herself in Australia, and there's clearly something in this Australian air that the Indians seem to like. So the way things are going, you'd have to be a bit of a fool not to continue to pick Kaur in your Fantasy Akhada team. Now, on to the disappointments of the week. And I'm going to start with something that for me is not so much a disappointment, but a concern. Or maybe it's just me kind of trying to be nice to a player that I really enjoy watching. But it's always difficult to watch a player who has dominated the international circuit or any circuit she plays at for so long. It's difficult to watch her struggle. So for me, the form of Lanning through this Australian summer, aside of course from that opening ODI against India, it's been difficult to watch her go through this WBBL because in 7 games, she's managed only 96 runs. But of course, her last knock, she did manage her best score of the WBBL, an unbeaten 27. So, maybe there are good signs there, but Meg Lanning hasn't been amongst the runs, and that's a bit of a concern for everyone watching. But I think one of the good things about Lanning is just the fact that her batting form hasn't affected her captaincy. So she's been quite brilliant, and I think probably one of the best captains on show through the tournament. So somewhere there is good news for the Stars. Speaking of team results, I guess another disappointment for me through this week, or maybe through the tournament, has been Hobart Hurricanes. I mean, the Rachel Priest-led side have made some incredible signings this year. They kind of pulled the coup of the year. They have a foreign batter. Mignon Dupree's amongst the runs. Taylor Volemick's bowling fire. Molly Strano's been doing well as well. But the Hurricanes have still managed only 2 wins in 9 games. So, they just can't seem to find a win. And it's not like they're playing terribly, but they just can't seem to get over the line. So that's a bit of a concern. Well, I think this is a good time now to have a look at the points table. And as I mentioned, the Hurricanes, with only 2 wins, are languishing second from the bottom. Sydney Thunder, of course, are below them, again, also with only 2 wins. But they've managed 2 wins this week. So, I'm sure they'll be gaining a lot of confidence from that. But up top are the Melbourne Renegades. They've taken a 2-point lead from the rest of the pack. But, of course, Brisbane Heat, Sydney Sixers, Perth Scorchers, and the Strikers are really going to be hunting them down. And of course, what's next? Well, some of the teams have moved to Adelaide for the business end of the tournament. And as Beth Mooney said, people don't remember how you start tournaments. They remember how you finish them. So, having used, I suppose, the first couple of weeks to fine-tune their combinations and their approaches, teams will now have to find some consistency. Remember, topping the table means that the team goes directly to the final. So it's no longer just about trying to break into that top 4. There's plenty more at stake. Well, that's it from me from this week's review, but before I sign off, I wanted to remind you to participate in Women's Cricket Zone's Superfan contest. If you haven't signed up yet, head on to Ripple Club, the link's in the description, and enter the contest. So the winner of the contest will get a chance to feature on Women's Cricket Zone's web show. So go on to Ripple and get guessing. And while you're at it, also make your fantasy Akhada teams. I hear Kim Gard's had a pretty decent season so far. Well, I'll catch you next week, same time, same place, on Mutual Fund Sahi Hai presents The Outside View, powered by Fantasy Akhada.
डायरेक्ट प्लान म्यूचुअल फंड में खुद से इन्वेस्ट करने का ये एक ऑप्शन है, इससे कमीशन बच जाता है।
अरे यार जस्सी मुझे बताना।
डायरेक्ट प्लान में सोच समझ कर इन्वेस्ट कर तो ही फायदा है।
सही है। तेरी इतना भारी
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।